what is poppin'? Today is another comparison video between the new Jaclyn Hill Volume 2 palette. I did already compare this palette to the Jaclyn Hill OG palette, and it was a great comparison formula-wise, but I wanted to do something more color-wise. Now, I went into my collection and I noticed the Jaclyn Hill Bling Boss palette from the Vault collection has some similar tones, surprisingly, to the new Jaclyn Hill Volume 2 palette. So this one is from the Vault collection. It's called Bling Boss. Now, I'm going to already tell you off the bat, I do not think that this Vault collection palette and that the Volume 2 palette have the same formula. We're going to get into it when we try it on the eye, but starting off, I'm just going to say that I don't think it's the same formula. So we open it up. One thing I'm going to say about this palette is that it does have a mirror, and this one palette is $15 and this whole palette is $39. So you are getting less shadows with this, but it is for a lower price. You do also have the names under over here, but you are also getting a mirror. Now the big palette is $39, but you do not get a mirror. You do have the shade names on the bottom, but like I said, no mirror. So curious on why this one was able to get a mirror in $15 for 10 shades, and this one does not have a mirror for 35 shades, but it is $39. So there is a big price jump. So I'm not sure what's going on there with that, but it is what it is. I'm going to put them side by side. I'm going to put them together side by side. As you can see, there are some similar colors. This one has a bit of purpley red tones, and so does the big palette. Right off the bat, Sparks and Next. Sparks from the Bling Boss palette and Next from the Jaclyn Hill palette look very similar. I'm going to insert swatches on camera right now between the two. Sparks is the first swatch, so the first swatch that you see is from the Bling Boss palette, and the second swatch that you see is Next from the Volume 2 palette. The next one that also looks very, very similar to me is the shade Glitz and Glam from the Bling Boss palette and the shade Rider Diamonds from the Jaclyn Hill palette. Those look very similar. Like I said, Glitz and Glam is the first swatch, and the second swatch is Rider Diamonds from Volume 2. And then the next shade that I'm going to say looks similar is Gem and Not My Journey. Now, Gem is a shimmer and Not My Journey is a matte, but just in tones they do look a little similar, so I'm also going to swatch those. The first one again is Gem, and the second one is Not My Journey. And then another color that I think is also pretty similar is Mystic, and I think that one is very similar to Crazy from Volume 2. Again, Mystic is the first swatch from the Bling Boss palette, and the second swatch is Crazy from Volume 2. And then Bling Bling from the, what is this called? From the Bling Boss palette, I think is also similar to the shade Drama Queen from Volume 2. So those are all the shades that I find very, very similar. I even think Pizzazz and Empowered are pretty similar. They're obviously not the same color, but they are pretty similar, so I'm also going to swatch those. Pizzazz is the first swatch, Empowered is the second swatch. And those are all the colors that I find similar, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put these both to the test on my eyes, and I'm going to see if I can do a similar look between the two, and I want to see if the shades are really that similar and if some of these shades are in the Volume 2 palette, and I also want to see how different the formulas are and which one performs better. I'm going to tell you off the bat it's probably Volume 2, but I want to see how bad this can compare to Volume 2. So let's get straight on to the eyelids and get this on. Okay, so not all the mattes and the shimmers were too similar. Some of them were. I'd say half of them were very similar to each other, but half of them weren't. But then again, I think we are going to be the judge of that more on the eyes rather than swatches, because I do think they swatch a little differently. The mattes in the Volume 2 palette definitely swatch way better than the mattes in Bling Boss, but the thing is that Bling Boss mattes also feel the same in the pan as Volume 2 does. So I'm a little like why is that, but at the same time volume 2 does definitely swatch more pigmented. The shimmers were about the same. So I've already gone ahead and primed both my lids using the Too Faced Born This Way concealer. Okay, so I'm going to start off with the Bling Boss palette, and I'm going to take the shade Mystic in the Bling Boss palette, and I'm going to use that on this eye, which is, for me, it's my left, but for you guys, it's probably, well, I think for you guys it's on your right, but for me it's my left eye, so I'm going to be going with this eye with the Bling Boss palette, and I'm going to be going with this eye for the Volume 2 palette. For the Volume 2 palette eye, I'm going to be taking the shade, so I'm going to be taking the shade Crazy from Volume 2, and this is the shade that I'm going to be comparing to Mystic from the Bling Boss palette. I'm going to take this shade on the outer corners of both eyes, so on the edges, and then I'm going to be kind of doing a half cut crease just to see how everything does together. So I'm going to take this on the outer edge and kind of bring it into the middle of my crease, but deepen it out on the edge of my eye. So I'm dipping into that thrice using my Morphe R36 brush, and then I'm going to use the same brush, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this on my color switch so that it'll take the pigment off, but I'll still use the same brush. I'm going to tap off the excess. There isn't too much dustiness. The pigment pretty much looks like it's all on the brush, and it looks like it's pigmented. Okay, so I did have to build that up a bit to get its full pigment, and as you could tell on the crease right over here, it is a little patchy, like right over there on the crease. Like it doesn't look seamless and smooth, it kind of just skips a bit. So that's the vault formula for you. So there is a bit more kick up in the pan in the Volume 2 palette compared to the Vault Collection palette. So let's put this one on our eyes and see if there's a difference. So Crazy is definitely a lot more vibrant than the shade Mystic, and Mystic is a bit more deeper. Obviously it's Mystic, so it's supposed to be deeper, but Mystic did have some skipping over the crease. You can really tell, like when I put it up, you see like it's not really supposed to be like that. And then the shade Crazy did not have that, so she did fix that problem. As you could tell, it's a lot more smoother, it blends together nicer. And this one does have the skipping over there in the crease. So there are definitely differences. It does seem like Volume 2's formula has improved. But I also did have to build up Crazy a bit. But off the bat, Crazy did definitely have a bit more pigment. Now I'm going to take the shade Sparks from Bling Boss with my Morphe M506 brush. I'm going to go over with this one first on the Bling Boss eye. And then I'm going to dip into Volume 2. And I'm going to go into the shade, where is it? The shade Next. And use this to blend out our crease, just like the shade Sparks from Bling Boss on the Volume 2 eye. Okay, I did have a tiny bit of difficulty with the shade Sparks from the Bling Boss palette. I did have to build it up. I didn't think it was showing up very well. As you can tell, it looks really patchy around here. It just doesn't really stick to the skin well. On this side, it looks very nice and vibrant, as you can tell. It doesn't look the best on this side either, to be honest. I wish both of them could have flowed a bit together, like smoother, but this side definitely does look better. I think this side just needs a nice transition shade to blow it out, and I think it'll do the job. But this one for sure is looking really bad. This one is definitely looking a lot smoother for sure. Now I'm going to cut the crease and do a half cut crease. I'm going to take my Too Faced Born This Way concealer in the shade Natural Beige and my BH Cosmetics Studio Pro No. 9 brush and use this to cut that crease. Now, taking my BH Cosmetics Studio Pro No. 7 brush, I'm dipping into the shade Glitz and Glam. As you can see, I've kind of dipped into this a little bit harshly. yeah, I can get like that sometimes. And then I'm going to dip into Volume 2. And I'm going to be taking the shade Ride or Diamonds on my brush for the Volume 2 eye. Okay, so now I'm going to go back with the only two mattes that we used for each palette. I'm going to deepen out the creases a bit and blend it out a bit with the lighter color on the crease. And then I think I'm going to take a transition shade from the Volume 2 palette. The Bling Boss palette does not have a good transition shade. It has one, but it's like a light purple, and I don't really want to make this more purple than it already is, so I'm just going to use the same transition shade from the big palette. But first I'm going to take the first two shades that we used on the eyes already, the mattes, and blend this all out. The shimmers, as you can tell, I had a bit more difficult using the Volume 2 shimmers, but the Bling Boss shimmer definitely did very well. Okay, so for the transition shade, I'm going to take the shade Perfectionist from the Volume 2 palette and use that to blend out both creases. Both creases. And I'm going to be using this for both because, like I said, not Volume 2. Bling Boss doesn't really have the best transition shade, and I am a perfectionist. Okay, I'm going to get to blending again. Okay, now I'm going to take a makeup remover wipe and clean up the fallout underneath. As you can tell, Volume 2 definitely has more fallout than Bling Boss does. Bling Boss has a bit, but not as much as Volume 2. So that is something to keep in mind, but Volume 2 definitely did do a bit better. It is a bit brighter, and it was a bit easier to blend. I will come back with my final thoughts after doing my lower lash line. For my lower lash line, I'm just going to use this shade Sparks from the Bling Boss palette for the Bling Boss side, and then I'm going to take the shade Next. I'm going to be taking the shade Next from the Volume 2 palette and use that under my lower lash line for the Volume 2 side. And then for the inner corner, I will be taking Bling Bling from the Bling Boss palette for my inner corner. And then I will be taking the shade, I think it was... You know what? I'm actually just going to go into Ride or Diamonds for my inner corner highlight and use the shade Bling Bling as my inner corner highlight from the Vault palette, just because I think those are the lightest in both palettes, minus I'm in it, but that is nothing close to the shade Bling Bling. So yeah, I'm going to do that with my inner corner, do my lower lash line, come back with lashes, and I will be back to give you my final thoughts between this showdown between the Bling Boss palette and the new Jaclyn Hill Volume 2 palette. It is time for my final thoughts, the end of the video, what we are going to get out of this, what we are wrapping up with, the final decision. Alright, I just need to get into it. Dun dun dun! Between the Jaclyn Hill Volume 2 palette and the Bling Boss palette, I very much prefer the new Jaclyn Hill Volume 2 palette. The reason why is because I think the formula definitely has gotten better. The Vault, as you already know, didn't really go well, and I can see why. When I had the Vault collection, I didn't really understand why completely, because I thought it was fine, but I didn't think it was amazing. I didn't think it was like bad, but I didn't think it was good. But after seeing the Volume 2's quality compared to the Bling Boss palette from the Vault collection, I can really tell they didn't really do the best job with the Vault collection, I'm going to tell you. But I have to say this, the Bling Boss palette, the shimmers, well, the one shimmer that we used definitely did do better. That one was easy to use with a brush. When I digged my brush into the Bling Boss palette, it was definitely really soft and easy to get payoff on my brush. Rather than in the Volume 2 palette, it was a bit stiffer, so it was a bit more difficult to get product on my brush. The way you can work your way around that is honestly, the Bling Boss palette, you can use your finger and you can use a brush to use it, but the Volume 2 palette, you only really get payoff after using your finger. So that's up to you what you want to do if that's a game changer for you. Now, the colors are similar, as you can tell. I mean, both looks pretty much look identical. This one might just be a little bit different, a little bit more brighter, and this one might just be a little deeper. But other than that, they're pretty identical. So if you have the Bling Boss palette, do you still need the Volume 2 palette? Yes, I don't think you need it, but I think it's still worth getting. And if you have the Volume 2 palette, do you need the Bling Boss palette? Absolutely not, okay? Unless you really love shimmers and you're in it for the shimmers, then the Bling Boss palette is for you. But if you are ready to have some high quality pigmented vibrant mattes, then the Volume 2 is a go. And I'm pretty sure everyone wants that. Who doesn't want a good matte? Because you can really find good shimmers in a lot of palettes, but it's hard to find good mattes, especially with the color stories that these two palettes have. Volume 2 definitely wins. So I hope this summarized all my thoughts well enough for you guys, and I hope this was helpful, or if you got anything out of this video between the Bling Boss and the Volume 2 palette. I had a great time doing a comparison between the two. These battle videos are kind of fun, not gonna lie. And thank you guys so much for being here and for watching through the entire video. I love you all, and I will see you in my next one, hopefully. Bye!